Hi, this is Dr. Bozeman, and we're going to show you how to make an interactive map such as this using a geodatabase. And so this is a map I made about a year or so ago. And on the screen you see a map with different size circles over different locations around Connecticut and New York. And this represents, at the time this was made, the learners coming from different places around the area. And so areas with bigger circles had more learners, smaller circles had fewer learners. And so if you click on each one, you'll see different pieces of information that pop up. You can create this as you like. So the city, this is Brookfield, and number of learners was 12. So if you click on different parts, you'll see the different numbers, and I grabbed this information from the membership of Workspace when I made this map. And so this is interactive, and we'll actually create an interactive application with it at the other end. So say I wanted to create this map. I'm actually going to start by creating a new map. And so you could also go creating a new map from your other areas, but yes, I want to open my map. And so I get this. And over here you'll see a lot of different things that you can add individual points, but that takes a lot longer. And I'll show you how easy this is once you have your basic information. And so to make your geodatabase, you actually want to go to a software, so either Excel or spreadsheets. And so what I ended up doing, I made several columns here with information that I thought was important for the map. And so here, this is my learners. We also have information related to parents. This was a city and then number of learners in each family or city. And I ended up adding in different cities to get a total number of learners. Say at the time we had 12 learners coming from Brookfield. And so all I was initially given was the city. And so I had to find this latitude and longitude for that information myself. And that did take a little bit of time, but I encourage you to play around with it and find the latitude and longitude for each piece of information. So I also want to show you how to do this through Google Spreadsheets. So I'm going to copy this information and just put it into a new Google spreadsheet. And so I'm going to open up a new one, because what you need, so we'll just paste it in there so I have this information exactly the same as an Excel file. And so I'm going to save this as Workspace Learners 2020, enter. So this is now within a Google spreadsheet on my Google Drive. So I actually want to be able to download this. And so we can't connect, I don't think, directly to our Google Drive. So I need to download it into a file. So let's say I want to download it, and most information needs the material separated with a CSV, and so this is a comma separated value. So we're going to click on here, and it's actually going to download it within a comma delimited file. And so I'm just going to say sure, yes, and so it'll download it, and it looks like it's in an Excel file. It's actually in a CSV file though, and so I'm going to click Save As. And so here it's saved as a comma separated file, which is what we want. I'm going to put it in my desktop folder and just say Workspace Learners 2020. So I'm going to save that, and it always pops up and it says you basically just have to say yes. Okay, so I'm going to close this out. Sure. I'm going to open it here, and I'm going to look at my desktop, and I'm going to find it. And so here, if I clicked on it again, it would open it. It looks like it's in it's an Excel file. It's not. It's in a comma delimited file. Okay. So why this is important is because we can actually put that information, a geodatabase, directly into here. So a geodatabase is basically just points and information associated with geographical locations. And so for this, we had learners in different places around Connecticut and New York. So to actually do that, we want to click Add, New Map, Add, Layer from File. And so here it says you need a CSV or a text file. So you can save your data as multiple different ways. That's a different discussion, but I want to go to desktop, and here's my file. I want to open this. And so once it reads it, it says .csv. We want to import it. And this is the important place here, is that we want coordinates. And so here you could use addresses or places if you had that. Say I have latitude in this column, and I want to come here and say that you are latitude, and then this column is longitude. And so if I had any other information, I could kind of put that in there, but this is how it's going to plot it on the data. And so then we're going to add this layer to it. There we go. And so all of these different plots are thrown together. So what it also does is it tends to choose or suggest a way to formulate those points. And so rather than just black points that all look the same, it tries to organize the data for you. And so what it's trying to do is basically relate that larger points are higher numbers, smaller points are lower numbers, but it's trying to use latitude to do that, which is not correct. And so we can choose an attribute to show, which is actually number of learners, which is actually what I wanted to do it. And then it will try and reorient itself. And here we have less than 1 or 1 to 12 or more as the bigger circle. So that's pretty good. We can also choose different colors if we want. So let's see what that looks like. So different colors, I don't like that as much. We can also do heat maps, which I don't like either. So I do like numbers with the size of the bubble. All right, so we have this. So let's look at the options. So I can actually change the size if I want. So let's say my max size, I want it 10, but I like more than 12. So we can also start creating equations if we want, which is a little higher level. We can also change the size, and so say I want a smaller point for my minimal and a larger point for my maximum, right? I can change it here. We can start to draw features and do other things. We can also make things transparent. And so say I want to have these things, but they're a little overlapping. I want to make them a bit more transparent. So let's leave this right around there. Visible range basically means, are they visible when I really scale out? And usually, depending on what you're interested in, I like them visible. If you're using with different scales, though, sometimes you don't want all of these points visible if you scale up to the globe. So it depends on your point. So that this is what I want, I'm going to say OK. And then done. All right, so this is it. And then I have latitude, longitude, number of cities, and the city it comes in. So I also want to start changing some of these because I don't like orange. I'm partial to certain colors. And so here you can change style. You click here. And you can actually do it in the previous window, which I forgot. So you click on the symbol, you can start to actually change the color. And so you can also click here. We have a whole bunch of different emoji type things. If you would like, you can also start putting in custom images. I'm partial to pink, so I'm going to click pink, right? And then the other material kind of stays the same. I can also make it larger. For some reason it looks smaller with this new data point, and then click OK. And then click OK. All right, so now it's at least pink. I like that. I can also come over here. I want to change the base map. And so if I just kind of scroll out, this base map is kind of ugly, I think. So you can come over here and change base map. You can choose dark or light. One of the main things about choosing your background is that if you don't need the information, don't use the information. So if it doesn't really matter of all the streets in the background, don't have it. It starts to confuse people and people get really overwhelmed by the data. So I want to choose the light background. Actually let's make it dark. I kind of like the dark. So now we have the dark background, looks pretty good. And usually whenever you're making a map, you want it scaled to the area so you see all of the extent of the different points that you have. All right, so I also want to change my pop-up. And so what the pop-up menu is, it's this. So it's the pop-up what you actually see. So it doesn't really matter for most people if they they see actually the latitude and longitude of each point. I really don't think that's important. What I really would like to show them is what city it is and how many learners are in that city. I think that's the only piece of information that's important. I'm going to come over here, come down to Configure Pop-up, and I can actually remove it too if I choose. So I can title it if I want. And let's just go ahead and name it Workspace Learners. I can choose all these different things. I do not need all of these different fields. And so I'm going to configure these fields and delete some of them. All right, so cohort, I don't need that. I don't need this, and I don't need that. And so I'm taking off latitude and longitude and the cohort that they're in, so just learners. Everyone was a learner in here. So here, though, I have number of learners in the city and the city, which is what I want, I think. Okay, so I think that should do it. Come down, we can also add different expressions and different images with each one. That's a little higher level, which I can show you later. So let's say that's good. And what do we have? Nope, so now we have workspace learners and the city, which is pretty much what I want, right? All right, so basically this map is very similar to the map that I had before, and so I'm going to save it. So this is a key thing. I want to save it. You also want to save it early and often. So if you have a bump in internet connection, you will lose your information, so I recommend you to save it before you're done. Tags, it always needs a tag. I'm going to just say Workspace Education. Summary, I tend not to put that in there. So let's save the map. There we go, perfect. Okay, so now to make an interactive application from this map, so basically a website that you can share with people and they can kind of play around and interact with your map, you need to share it. So you'll go up to Share and click that, and you can change it with share it with different people. We'll go ahead and share it with everyone. If you're working through Workspace, you do have to share it specifically because we do, as an educational institution, our sharing is relatively limited. I'll share it with everyone, just so we have it, and so you can embed it into a website if you have a website you want to put it into, or create a web app. So we're going to create a web app. There are many different templates that you could use. The basic one, most simple, is Basic Viewer. So we'll use that, and you can preview it too, just to show you what that looks like. So this is the basic preview. You can click on it, and kind of that's what it looks like. And so we can kind of make this a slightly more interactive by creating the web app and configuring it in a certain way. So we can actually create a summary. So I'll just call Workspace Learner Map from January 2019, I think is about when I did this. So we'll go ahead and do done, and it'll create the configure menu for the map. So we have all of these different options. We can kind of start to play around with it and change what it looks like. And so this is kind of more of the visual, what you want your map to look like. We can come in here and actually change the map. We have a couple different ones. So all the ones that you have in your content should be available. We can change and add more detail as we want. Add accessibility options, and so let's do that. We'll just say Workspace Education Map of Learners from January 2019. Okay, so we come down here, we'll go theme, and so this is where you can pick the colors that you would like. And what's cool is you can say, I want to try this one, try different header colors, and if you click save, it'll change this map over here so you can get an idea of what it looks like before you have to commit. That looks a little funky, so let's try this color. Alright, yeah, I'm happy with that. You can also change the text color, the button color, panel color. Let's see, what is that going to look like? So not much with there, so not useful at all. Okay, so we have our colors. We can put different titles on there. Let's go to options. We can add different options of what's going to be available. And so if we wanted to add a legend, I like to have the measure tool on there because it's a fun little thing to have. I usually use the defaults, and then if we want different defaults for search engine, we could do that. And so let's push save, then we're going to launch it. So when you launch, it basically is the interactive map, right? And so we can start to share it. And so this is the link that you can share with people. You can now have the measure link, which we actually chose to put in there, is now available. And so if I want to measure the distance between these 2 points, we can do that, and then it comes up as about 8-9 miles, and just you have to double click to make it stop. So that's a fun little link, and you can have all these different options. And so you now have an interactive web page that you can share with people. One thing though is to make sure that if you're sharing, sometimes it will, because we are an educational institution, it will not allow you to share it unless you go in and check your map. And so we're going to just double check it to make sure that all of this is available. And so once you go back into your content, and I'll just show you that, you go into your content page. So it comes up here as web mapping application. And so you see these two names are the same. So this is the map that we actually made. This is the app. And so they're two different things. They show up as two different pieces of content. And so we're just going to make sure we can show up on the Workspace Learner application. And sometimes you have to double check that it's shareable. And so we can also share it with different groups. And another thing is sometimes if you have your initial map is not shared with people, it's not going to show up with the map. So those are just a few things that whenever you start to make content and share it with people to be aware of, you always share it with people who can give you feedback and make sure that all your I's are dotted before you share it to people you really care about their input.